Guru's Dojo here on this wonderful Monday afternoon. Beautiful weather here out in Cedar Park, Texas. Today we are going to be talking to some new agents. We're going to be talking about some things that we're going to be looking into as new agents. But before we get started, I just want to welcome y'all. Thank you for being here. Justice, I'm going to start with you. Just basic question. Your first day being here, what has been something that you have learned or picked up about convincing yourself that this is something that you want to do for a while?
The fact that we're not just selling products. I hear a lot of agents on the phone. They are doing lots of research on what they're the products that we're offering to our clients, which is really good. I don't like just selling stuff to people.
Right.
So I like that part of it.
Very cool. Very cool. Juan, what about you? What is something that has kind of helped you lean toward doing this job for a while as well?
I think the biggest value for me for getting into this market is my mom, for one, and knowing all the coverages that are out there besides what we currently have. Because we haven't even ventured into looking at some of the Advantage cares that's out there. She primarily just signed up, and that's all she's had. But there's so much out there that I'm actually learning from. And plus, you're helping the people, so yeah. I do like that.
Yeah, that's one cool thing that I've stayed in this business for a while is that there's a multitude of products that we're offering, but what I really like is that in the end, like, we're saving these people's lives. You'll start talking to people that are, very healthy and they know how this product works and they know how Medicare works. But what's really cool is that they may not know something that you can help them with. So that's one side. And then on the other side, you'll talk to people that are really not healthy. And it is your job to say, hey, this is what's going to help you with your coverage. This is what's going to help you stay alive, I can tell you tons of stories of different people that I've worked with over the years, but that's what's exciting is you guys get to have those stories. You get to have those conversations and get to help those people. Sharita, what about you? What is something that you have picked up this morning, with the vibe of the office, that's something that's like, okay, I see how this can work?
Like you were saying, I see that I can contribute to helping people. I feel like my skills and my ambitions will get the job done, get, people on Medicare, and get them on the best health road as possible, That's why I see in the future.
Very cool. Very cool. And then you, Kristen, what is your thoughts? You've been doing sales for a little bit now. So now you're into a sales business that is like, okay, now there's some merit to this. There's some energy. So what makes you say, okay, I could do this?
I really like being able to help people, and not the whole, we don't go behind anybody's back or anything like that. Everything is very straightforward to the customer, and they see everything that we're laying out in front of them, giving the best options possible, which I really enjoy that. I like helping people and not doing things the wrong way.
Good. Yeah. And that's important too, because in this, and I've been around for a while, there are a lot of there's a lot of corporations that, are just what we call turn and burn. Where they just like, all right, let's sign up the plan. Let's get it going. We don't really want to build relationships. We need profit. And we don't do that here. We really want you to build your own book of business. So that way they are your clients for life. And that's what we want. Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing. And we'll talk more about your experiences here as we move forward throughout the days. But today what we're going to talk about is we're going to talk about client concerns. We've been doing a client series the past couple weeks about, how we can help our clients. So today we're going to talk about what are concerns of clients? Like when they're talking to an agent like yourself, what are some things that are going to come up that are going to cause a concern for them? And we want to address them for them so that way we know how to address the clients when those concerns come up. Okay? And so I'm just going to run on the board here real quick. So what we have here, we have the 3 concerns or 3 C's. Okay? So when you're talking to a client, sometimes they'll all blend together, but what helps is to narrow down what their major concern is. Okay? Not everybody that you talk to on the phone is going to be like, oh, Sharita, I love you. Let's do some business. How sales works, right? So what I have seen is I'm able to narrow it down into 3 C's, or 3 concerns that these clients are going to have. And we're going to talk about those today. Okay. So the first C is cost. Okay. How much does this particular plan cost me? Whether it is $0 or if it's less than what I'm currently. So I'll start with you. In your sales experience, how has cost been a concern for clients that you've talked to?
Always.
Okay.
One of I think a lot of it has to do with the price point, but cost is always a factor for anybody to make that decision. Whether they can afford it or not, they're not going to fully disclose it. It's our job to kind of build the value on that and show them the cost savings on that to overcome the fear of them feeling like they're purchasing something or adding something to what they already have, but the value of what you're going to provide to them can offset the cost. And so I just think cost is just in everything that we do, whether you're shopping or buying a car or buying a house, even on Medicare. So
And for a lot of these people, they're on like fixed income.
That's right.
So the cost is very important.
Yeah.
It might not fit in their budget.
Right. Yeah, a lot of times too, when we're talking about Medicare cost, they immediately see the cost. They see the price, and they're either going to balk at it or they're going to be concerned with it. And the thing about Medicare, especially with cost, especially with price, is that, and you've probably had experience with this before in your own life or your family's life. When you are talking about cost, you're always concerned. You're like, how much is this going to fit my budget? Am I able to afford this? But what is the reality of that cost when it comes to Medicare? And that is, no matter what happens, if something happens to you that's bad, like, or a family member, they get into a car accident, or something affects them where they have to go to the hospital, you will spend whatever it takes to save that person or to save yourself.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
You will drain, you have a child, right?
Mm-hmm.
You will drain your savings to save your child's life if something tragic or catastrophic happens to you.
Yep.
Okay? And so when we start talking to clients, when clients start asking, I'm worried about the cost, we have to understand that truth, that universal truth in all of us, is that, yes, you're not going to bring this up. Yeah, well, it might be more expensive than what you're currently paying, but you'll spend every dime to save your life or your family member's life, right? We don't want to bring that up. But we do want to understand that when we're talking about cost, that is something that is very significant when it comes to how their budget is going to be, okay? So we start learning about Medicare supplements. Medicare supplements, you have a premium that you have to pay monthly. And that can be a little bit overwhelming for people that are trying to budget. But when you start talking about Medicare supplements, you'll start to realize, I would rather pay a premium a month than be bankrupt for bills when going to the hospital. Okay? So when we start talking about costs, we'll start learning about how that we start building the value, which is very important. But we have to have them understand that when we get to the very end of the presentation, we start going through your script training. At the very end of the presentation, cost doesn't matter. And why do you think that is? I'll ask you, why do you think that is? At the end of teaching the value, why does cost not matter?
Build enough rapport, make it valuable enough that they're going to want it no matter what, because in the long run, they're going to realize it's still saving them money.
Right. Like you can't tell somebody, hey, this surgery is going to be $100,000 because they're not having surgery. But ask the people that had $100,000 surgery, they'll know, it takes up the majority of, here's a little fact that you can use in your sales pitch. 3/4 of every bankruptcy, all bankruptcies throughout the United States, 3/4 of them are medical related, paying back medical bills. You know how expensive it is.
Yeah, I was going to say, just going to the emergency room is a couple $1,000s. So yeah.
Yeah. And then when you start learning more about Medicare, you'll start to realize that, you can be thousands and thousands of dollars. Just real quick, personal story. My son just was diagnosed with seizures. He doesn't have epilepsy yet, but he's had seizures in the past couple months. And the first seizure that he had was the end of May. He had it at school and they put him in the ambulance.
Oh,
Yeah. And so
my daughter just went in the ambulance a couple months ago.
So
Mhm.
how expensive an ambulance trip can be.
Yes.
We just started getting, like, this was in May. We're in October now. We just got the ambulance bill. Holy moly.
It's like $8,000, if not more.
Yeah, depending on the
Hers was
coverage.
about $6,000 to $7,000.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's very, very expensive. And with these people, especially Medicare, who may fall, or something may happen to them where they need an ambulance, you want to make sure that they're covered.
Right.
So yes, so to conclude, the first thing is their concern is always going to be cost. Not the most important concern, because we know that once we build the value, the cost is going to get out of the way. All right. Now, the second C, or concern, is coverage. How is their insurance working? How does their coverage, if they're switching a plan or if there is a change in their coverage, they're going to be concerned. Why?
Because you want to have more covered instead of less covered when you're doing insurance.
Mm-hmm.
So that if they're going from something that's covering them with everything, and then we have a plan that's takes two of those things off, they're not going to want to switch, of course.
Right.
Because that makes no sense.
Yeah. So what kind of conversations are you guys having or will have with people who are concerned about their coverage? What are some things that you want to say to them?
Explain to them thoroughly what they are being covered for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What else do you think? Because when you start learning about Medicare plans, there's varying levels of coverage. Okay, there's a supplement, and then there's the Advantage plan that you talked about. Totally different levels of coverage. Okay.
I think we need to uncover a lot of
Their medical background.
Yes.
To start off with, and
That-
see what they have and what we're going to offer.
Exactly right. That you want to know what they currently have and how it's working for them.
Right.
Right. So a quick example, a Medicare Advantage plan typically is designed for healthy people. And we're just generalizing today. So when you learn about Advantage plans, you'll see, okay, they're $0 premiums. They're very inexpensive. They have a lot of perks, but they're designed for healthy people. So when you start talking to them and they start saying, oh yeah, I've had this Advantage plan and I've had a couple health concerns that are coming up. I've been to the hospital, they checked me for arrhythmia and I don't have any heart arrhythmia, but I'm doing okay. You want to start saying to them, like, your coverage is not going to work for you right now. Your coverage right now, you're going to have to start paying a lot of co-pays, a lot of deductibles if you have to go get heart surgery or quadruple bypass. You're going to be extremely limited on your coverage. So when you're having these conversations with them, you're exactly right. You want to break down what their current coverage is. Because these clients, they're like, oh yeah, I've had the plan for years.
But they don't even know that it's not even helping them.
Why is that?
Because a lot of times people will just sell you something like we were talking about earlier, and then they don't know the information behind it. So they think they're getting covered, but in reality, they're not.
Right.
So.
Here's a great statement that you'll hear. Oh yeah, I had my coverage for years, and it's been great. I haven't even had to use it.
It's like, how do you know it's working?
What? Right? How do you know if it's even working? Yeah.
I can vouch on as Hispanic. Most of my relatives are exactly that way. My aunt, my uncle.
Yeah.
They've, including my mom, they've had Medicare for the longest time. They've never talked to a rep and she's 82 years old.
Yeah.
So. But she doesn't know. No, we just, whenever I take her to a doctor, that's what it was. And I was like, Mom, there's so many other things that we need to look at now. And it kind of opened my eyes just by applying here. But in all honesty, our family, our relatives, not all of them, but for the most part, they signed it. They're done with it. They put it away. And I'm already taken care of.
Right.
It's just the mentality of what they've had before.
Yeah.
Kind of feel like a little personal experience. I was in the hospital 3 weeks ago.
Okay.
And I thought my insurance covered a lot more than what it actually did. So now I have thousands of dollars hospital bills to start paying off. So.
Yeah. It sucks because you're like, I did not know the billing went this way. I thought this, yeah.
Exactly.
And go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, yeah, she's totally right, because I have to have knee surgery, and I thought my insurance covered? I said, no, they did not.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm still currently waiting on the surgery.
Yeah. You're limping around. We have some canes if you need to borrow.
I should be good.
Yeah. Okay, good. But no, you guys are right. Like, you guys are experiencing it personally.
Yeah.
Now imagine if you're 80 years old and something happens to you and you need some type of surgery, and you'll start to learn a lot about when you're talking about people's health, the correlation between their level of coverage to their level of health. It starts to decrease as they start to get sicker and sicker, because they're like, oh no, now I got to start dipping into my coverage. Now I got to start using it. A classic example is people who need knee replacement surgery. These people know when they're older that surgery is going to debilitate their body. They know it.
Yeah.
And so what they do is they take every precaution available to avoid surgery. And avoidance of surgery usually predicates injections. Yeah. So tell me that. Tell me why it doesn't work.
So because like now I pushed mine off for so long. Now I have a worse condition. There's a 2.5-inch break. So now I have to go through injections, like you said, in my knee, plus the surgery. So it just makes it worse, just having to try to like prolong it. Yeah.
It's tough, and that's the protocol with them, is that, oh, I'll just keep getting injections until I have to inevitably get surgery.
Yeah.
And you have to empathize with them. They're like, oh, I know why you don't want surgery, because your body may not rehab as much,
Right.
So just another personal story. My dad had colon cancer, and he, knows that he has a history of cancer. He goes to the proctologist like every year. I'm like, that's a little much, but now I know why.
Yeah.
So the first time he had it was stage 1, totally fine. Had the surgery, just cut a polyp out of his colon. It's fine. Got it again. The second time around, same thing, stage 1, caught a polyp, cut it out. He's still recovering. And this has been like 6 months. He's still not 100%. And it's the surgery that just, debilitates your body. And so the last thing that we want our clients to worry about, or what you worrying about, is my coverage going to cover this? When they have to inevitably go to surgery, are they going to get covered? And that's a discussion that we have to have with them. So my next thing about coverage is this. When you're talking to somebody and they don't know what their coverage is, how do you think you would address that? In your own opinion. No training prior, just your own opinion.
Explain to them, like, from what the information that they gave you for their health needs, explain to them what our policy would cover, or what plan we think would cover them, and why we feel it's a better policy.
Yeah, that could work.
So you asked about like what they're already on.
Yeah, you already asked what they're on. Yeah.
So I would kind of ask them and like see what they think like they're being covered for, and then take the things that they said and correct it in a way, obviously a nice way, but
right.
And then just correct it and let them know what they're actually being covered for.
Yeah. A lot of times these people are very reluctant. I don't know if you've ever looked into like the Medicare industry, but like there are people that are calling these people all the time. They're constantly calling them, and what happens is they'll go on a website or they'll go on Facebook and they'll say, oh, I want some information. And then they're just absolutely bombarded with phone calls to the point where they're like, I've made a mistake.
And then they don't want to talk to anybody.
And they don't want to talk to anybody.
Yeah.
They don't want to talk to anybody. So Juan, I'll ask you, like, it sounds like you have been working kind of with your mom in terms of coverage and stuff. You don't have to it's your personal story, but how has that been going in trying to help her understand?
It's been a little bit rough. She had open heart surgery, and then they did a stent, and then 2 valves that they had to replace, and then her heart was enlarged, so they had to reduce that as well. And the Medicare has helped quite a bit, to be honest with you, because she's got the A and B part, and we don't have Advantage or anything like that. But there's other areas that we can dip into to help us out on it. But I don't know. I've never thought about working at Medicare. I never have. I really haven't. And now that I started looking into this, it just kind of opened my eyes. And we've actually had more conversations about what she actually needs. transportation, all these other things that are out there that she's just not aware of.
Mhm.
But we've done everything from, she's on a wheelchair all the time, but the injections on her knees, they no longer work. She needs 2 full knee replacements. Her bone density is not good. She's 82 years old. It's very hard. But now she's more open to just venturing out and seeing what else is out there. Because, man, we get bombarded, even at the house. I mean, we get like 8 calls a day.
Yeah.
And it's because my uncle's there and my aunt's there. And they're all like 70, 80 years old. I feel like I have a house full of elderlies at my house, but that's what I have right now.
Yeah.
3 elderlies in there that are
You
living
can
there.
feel those calls.
Oh man, we get tons of calls.
Yeah.
But in honesty, it's opened our eyes. It's been an eye opener for us.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
and to a point where you were talking earlier, that we think we have the right coverage until you actually need to use it. And
Yep.
and most people would say, I don't need it right now because I feel fine. But then when it happens, they're not prepared with the right coverage, and that's when it hurts the most.
Yeah. It's tough being an insurance agent sometimes because your primary goal is to have those clients or potential clients understand that we are not salespeople. We are risk mitigators. All we want to do is mitigate the risk that is going to prevent you from having as many issues or as little issues as you have when something occurs. We can't predict the future, which every insurance agent says. We can't predict the future, so let's get you this insurance. Like, that's very salesy. But it's a truth, you know?
Yeah.
It's a truth. So like when you're talking to these people and they're like, oh, I'm good, or oh, I'm not worried about it, or I'm not talking about it. I mean, that's okay, you know, because their mindset is I'm okay because nothing has happened to me. You know, they've talked to their friends and they share the same coverage. Or they've talked to their family members and say, well, I have not had any issues, so you should not have any issues. And so you got to break these walls down for them. And you have to have them understand. You ask them, you say, okay, look, yes, I get it. You don't need this. Or yes, you believe you don't need this. But where did you get that information from? Oh, your friend or your family member, you know?
A lot of times it's not a reliable source.
Well, you want to be positive. Yes, all friends and family members are not reliable sources. We know
I used
that.
to work at a senior apartment complex, so
Really?
yeah.
And they'll make a lot of. Well, tell me about that.
Like, you know, they would come in and like, for instance, we had a program that they could sign up for that would help reduce their rent a little bit. And, you know, like, well, I don't need to sign up for that because my friend told me as long as I have my social security and I provide that information that this is going to be helpful. I'm like, no, not necessarily. But I'm like, let me show you how I can help you reduce your rent even more. So let's do that.
Right.
Yeah. So a lot of times the information that they're getting is coming from, like you said, friends and family. And sometimes that information is not always accurate.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I totally agree. I agree. Shrita, I'll ask you, what are some things that help when you're talking to somebody? It can be family member or friend to help deflate that idea of you should not trust your family members or friends with insurance or any type of information like that.
Nothing comes to mind.
That's okay.
I think to get them on the right track of insurance, of even thinking about insurance is the main thing. That's the best I can say.
That's
right
fine.
now.
But let's help you out. Let's help you out. When you're having a conversation with a friend, right? Does insurance ever come up?
No.
Never. It never comes up. No one likes talking about insurance unless you're me, who's weird, and it's been my life for the past 4 years, right? But the thing is that it never comes up.
No.
So what our job is that we get these people on the phone, okay, and they are completely reluctant to talk to you because they're getting bombarded with phone calls. And that is going to lead us into our third C. This is the most important one, okay? Now, when we are talking to people, we want to make sure that we cover all of these together. There might be one focus or there might be something that is really lingering in their mind, but if we can close all these two out, like we're not worried about cost, we're not worried about coverage. There's one more important thing that we have to worry about, and that is credibility or trust. How do we know if you're a client and you're talking to somebody, how can we trust the person we're talking to? How do we know that what you all are saying to them is the right thing? That's a tough one.
Yeah.
That's what you're going to be working with the most, is when you're addressing cost or you're addressing coverage. You guys are going to be hitting it out of the park because the script is going to help you and your conversations and building rapport. Like, we're already having a nice conversation. I like you guys already, and we've talked for 25 minutes. Okay, I'll buy something from you right now. But it's because I trust you. Okay, when you're talking to people on the phone, which we'll start this afternoon, you are going to be like, okay, I'm going to give them this information. I'm going to help provide resources. I'm going to do whatever I can. But how do we know that what we're telling them, they are receiving or they are processing because they trust us?
Yeah.
How do we do that?
Ask questions.
Okay, questions.
Get them to open up.
Yeah, I was going to say build a personal relationship.
Okay.
Build rapport.
Building. Okay, all this stuff, rapport, relationship. I mean, we are on the phone. You know, like, think about it. Like, you guys get solicitation calls, right? Buying stuff. Think about this for a second. I'll ask one of y'all, whoever wants to go first. When you're getting a solicitation call, okay, it could say spam, or it could be a number that pops up and they're trying to sell you something. The majority of the time, and I could be wrong, but the majority of the time you're like, no, thank you, and you hang up, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes.
Damn, I don't even answer.
If it says spam, you don't even answer, right? Can you remember a time where a solicitor called and you stayed on the phone with them?
No.
Never?
No.
All right, you don't count.
Only one time.
That's okay. Okay, so we'll go with you.
And they did not get me to buy the product, but she was so sweet and she was so concerned about my household and what I had going on in my household that we end up having like a whole conversation, and she's emailed me information and everything. So her goal got across. She was able to finish her pitch.
Right. Right. But you stayed and listened.
Yeah.
Why?
Because she was more concerned about what I had going on, and like it was, you can tell she wasn't just trying to sell me something. She was sincere.
Right.
She was listening to you. She's asking, like she said, she's asking questions.
Yeah.
And she's concerned with, your livelihood.
Yeah.
And she's not trying to push a product. All right, what about you? What was the call that you stayed on and listened, at least?
Same thing.
Yeah.
If they just seem sincere, truly trying to help out and not being a salesperson, that's the main thing I think that every salesperson needs to realize when we're trying to sell something, is not come across as a salesperson, even though that is our goal.
Yeah.
The first priority should be to take care of the client, let them vent, let them tell you exactly what's going on, and then you bridge from there. And you listen for some of these indicators that are out there. Then you can start reeling them in, building the puzzle. I don't know anything about Medicare, but that's my approach.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
Then you start.
That's all that matters.
I mean, because that's the same thing that we use during leasing. I was currently in leasing, so like that's what you do. You talk to them, get personal. Ask them about their needs and
bring
their
their guard down,
wants.
have them feel comfortable with
instead
you.
of just trying to get them to sign a lease to sign an apartment that they're not happy with, or in a couple months they're going to be coming and complain every day about not liking their apartment.
That's
so
right. If you sell, if they like you and you sell yourself to them, they're gonna buy.
Yeah.
That's how I've always taken the sales approach in anything that I've done. If you come across as likable and not this sleazy vacuum car salesman type of person, are you here to buy today, or are you just looking? It's just turnoffs. But they're more likely to listen to you, and you have a better chance of closing the deal.
Yeah. That's good. What's hard for them is that they're older and they have a wealth of experience in life. And not everybody's going to trust you. Okay. No matter how sincere you sound on the phone. The only thing that we have is our voice in these. And, when they're talking to clients and people, if you're listening at home for clients, you're going to hear something right away saying like, okay, I'm here to help. I'm here to do this. But if they're constantly telling you what to do, they're not going to listen.
Yeah.
You have to ask questions. I like your philosophy of asking questions. How does that work for you?
It honestly works really well. It gets people to open up a lot easier. And by asking questions too, like you can relate yourself into those questions and just relate the two of y'all together. And that's going to build trust between them. And the asking questions thing, and then also like changing your tonality and always using tonality, because they'll be able to hear tonality like over the phone.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's so great.
Experience. Yeah, one thing I used to be an assistant manager. One thing I used to tell the leasing agents is make sure you smile on the other end of the phone, because regardless on what you think you sound like, people can tell if you have an attitude. People can tell if you don't want to talk. People can tell if you're getting irritated. So try and be as happy as you can on the other side of the phone if everything is not going the way you want it, even though, you know.
Yeah. That's and Frank, our CSO, he'll always use this line. He's like, the number one rule of being a salesman is don't sell.
Yeah.
You're not going to sell. And that's what's great about this position too, which we talked about earlier, is that you are an independent enrollment center. You know, we don't like to say call center. We're not a call center, but we're more than a brokerage. We can offer anything to anybody that needs Medicare. And that's what's going to be helpful. But that's what we need to practice next. It's how do we get y'all's awesomeness across the phone? How do we do that?
I don't
Be
know.
relatable.
Okay, how so?
Knowing who they are, knowing a little bit about their background.
Yeah.
Start a conversation with them.
Yeah. It's like, hi, my name's David Grip. Nice to meet you, Sharita. Tell me what's going on. You know, and that's what it says in the script too. Like, just tell me what's going on. You know, I see that you're starting Medicare, or I see that you've been in Medicare. Tell me what's going on. Mm-hmm. You know, a lot of these corporate agencies, they have this like super taught script that says, say this, say this, say this, say this. And then once you get into our script, it'll say, okay, once you get somebody on the phone, you introduce yourself and you ask them, hey, what's going on? Tell me what's happening. And if they are, you know, guarded, or if they are terse with you, you just say, that's fine. You know, I'm here to help you. And that's where kind of that aggressiveness can come in. That as I call pleasant
aggressive.
That pleasant persistence. You know, like, hey, I'm here to help you. I'm not here to sell you anything. This is not a sales call. You are starting Medicare, or you are in Medicare, and you're getting bombarded with phone calls who are trying to sell you something. We're here to help you. We're here to make life easy for you. So yes, building rapport and asking questions is very important. Let's talk about some other tactics that maybe you don't know that can help build trust, because that is, even though the last one, it's the most important one. So if I give you a situation like a client will say, listen, I don't trust you. I like everything you've offered me, but I don't know if I can do it. I don't know if I can, you know, enroll with you, or I don't know if I can go through the plan with you. Let's kind of brainstorm some ideas of what we can do to help overcome that objection.
You could ask them, you know, what's holding them back from
good.
Wanting to move forward with the process. And from the information that they give you, then you can, so some people might not necessarily understand all the information that you gave them, or they think that it sounds too good to be true. Mm-hmm. So I would say pull receipts to kind of show, you know, what it is. This is, you know, like we're not hiding anything type thing, and kind of move forward in the process.
Yeah. I like that. And what you could do too is just go over the 3 concerns. Just say to them, okay, it sounds like you're not ready. Because what we want to do is if we hang up the phone with them, they're probably not going to want to talk to us again, because someone else is going to talk to them. And there's nothing worse than presenting some information and then they say they don't want to do it, and then someone else calls them
and they just sign up.
Yeah, we don't want to lose your deal. So say to them like, okay, it sounds like you're not ready. Well, let's talk about what your concern is. Is it cost? Well, no, we've talked about, you know, the price, and I like the price. Okay, so cost is not a concern. Is it the coverage? I've explained to you how this insurance policy is going to work with your coverage. You know, submission of bills, you know, going to the hospital, how you recover. Everything seems to focus on you're covered. So is that a concern of yours? No. Then what is the concern? You don't what? You don't.
You don't trust me.
You don't trust me. Right. And it's okay to call them out on it. You know, it's okay to say, look, we've gone over the cost. You seem to be okay with the cost. You seem to be okay with the coverage. That sounds like it's a trust issue. Let's talk about that trust issue. So what is the issue with me, the agent, or my company, or this process that we're doing overall? Don't be afraid to have this conversation with them, because that is what's going to get you the sale. Because they're like, oh man, I got called out, you know, I got called out. I've had so many conversations where I've closed on the first call when they first said, I don't want to do this right now. It's because you don't trust me.
That, and I need to think about it.
Yes, I need to think about it. Well, what do you need to think about? When you guys hear, I need to think about it, that means I have a concern that I can't do right now.
And reloop and see where you missed them.
Yep, closing those doors. So here's some suggestions. One thing is send them an email. Ask them, say, do you have a computer in front of you? Do you have your phone in front of you? Let me send you an email so you can see my credentials. See that I'm legitimate. Here's my company information. Here's my contact information. I'm real. Okay. Second thing is have them look up on the website. Go to your website. Say you go to your phone or go to your computer right now and say to them, go to MedicareGurus.com. Look at us. Here's where we are. Look at our recommendations. Here's our reputation. And third, have them go to Trustpilot. Now, you guys know what Trustpilot is?
Yeah, where they rate you on your company's what do you call it?
Skills.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like how well you do.
Yep.
Yeah.
Trustpilot is probably the most reputable recommendation for companies on the internet. And if you look on Trustpilot, you'll see Medicare Gurus has wonderful reviews.
Yes.
So once you get them through that and you have explained to them everything, hopefully that they are like, okay, this guy seems legit. Sometimes the over-the-phone process can be tough for some people, but you always want to make sure that the credibility is the most important thing in all of these deals. And you said something earlier, that when you are buying something, you're not buying the product. What are they buying?
The interaction, really.
They're buying you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're buying you. Yeah, so you have cost, coverage, and credibility. That is going to help you on these phone calls. All right, so we have about 20 minutes left, so there's a couple things that I want to do before we wrap this up. So now that we have our three concerns, okay, I'm going to ask each and every one of you, what do you think is going to be the most difficult one for you to overcome when you're talking to a client? Now, let me think about it for a second. When you're talking to somebody, and it's just your experience with Medicare, it could be just the first day. I mean, you've been looking at it for a couple of days now, haven't you? So you're kind of seeing, when you're talking to a client and they're like, I got to think about it. If one of these is addressed, which one do you think is going to be the most, like personally, which one's going to be the most difficult for you?
Mine is coverage.
Okay, let's go with you first. We'll do, all right, how many of you, let's say cost first. Let's start with cost. It's going to be the most difficult. Like understanding how to explain cost to somebody. No? Okay, we'll go with you. Coverage, why coverage?
I think it's there's just so much to absorb and learn that I haven't really put a good grasp around it. But that's the only thing that really concerns me is just the coverage, ensuring that I'm placing the client in the right coverage.
Okay.
Advantage, and you can't have Medigap or
Right.
there's just a lot of things that you have to work. And I see that there's charts and everything. And I haven't even looked at them. I'm like, oh
Right.
my God.
So,
Yeah.
so you seem like a guy that just wants to know everything before he talks about it. Is that kind of your vibe?
I think I just want to.
questions
I
answered.
don't know. I just wanted to be able to already start navigating through CRM. And I'm not so concerned about the role playing and picking up the phone. And it was like, hey, Bill, this is Juan with Medical Gurus. Thanks for calling. How can I assist you today? I'm not concerned about that.
Right.
But as soon as he starts telling me, hey, I've got
this,
and
Yeah.
I've got this medication. Will
this cover
more
me?
specific calls that we're going to get, because they're not all going to be, hey, I'm turning 65 and I'm ready to sign up. I love those.
Right.
I can assure you there's plenty of them that are saying, hey, I've been with Medicare for 5 years and I need to see if what's out there available for me. So I just want to make sure that I'm on the right playing field against the competition. That's the biggest thing.
No, I mean, that was one of mine too. I was always a coverage guy because I wanted to know everything before I talked about it. Because I can have conversations all the time, but I also wanted to make sure that I was able to know what I was talking about.
That's right.
But I'll give you a tip. I've been doing this for 4 years. Frank has been doing it for about 8 years. Brad out there has been doing it for about 10 years. Okay, they still don't know everything about Medicare. Medicare is an organic thing that's constantly changing. So yes, as you get reps, you'll get practice, you'll start talking to people, you'll start remembering the script and the coverage, but if you are able to be confident enough to have a conversation with somebody, all that stuff doesn't matter.
And that's where credibility comes into, because people can tell if what you're saying you're confident in, or if you're just saying something and you're reading it off of a script.
Yeah.
Because I've most definitely been on the phone with some people like that. I'm like, oh, they must be new.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I remember one of the best pieces of advice that I got was like, just tell them that you're new.
Yeah.
Tell them that you're new. Just say, hey, I just started at this. I have everything in front of me. It's going to take me just a couple more minutes because I want to make sure I'm doing everything right. They love that stuff. They prefer honesty over manipulation all the time. And so sometimes, like I've been doing this for a while. I'm on the phone with somebody and they ask a question. I'm like, you know what? I don't know that. Hold on a second. And I'll just turn around and say, hey, Frank, and I'll ask a question. Mm-hmm. They hear that confidence. They know that I don't know the answer, but they know that I'll get the answer. Mm-hmm. That's more important. If you say to them, oh, and you give them some, you'll be so tempted to give them an answer because they're like, oh, I just don't know that answer. They don't care. They'll hear the tonality and hear the confidence and say, you know what, I don't know that, but I'm gonna look it up right now. Hold on one second. And you don't even have to put them on hold every time.
Yeah, and I learned that the hard way in leasing. Because you say just one piece of wrong information and that takes away your credibility right there. And they're gonna hold you. They're gonna hold it to you.
Yeah. So go ahead. You're saying be in front of them.
Yeah.
So you did face-to-face sales.
Yeah, I did face-to-face in-house sales for solar panels for a few months. Yeah. So it was a good job, but like if you would mess up like in the slightest way or say anything with not as much confidence as what you were saying before, they're gonna catch on right away and they're gonna be like, wait, like go back and like redo that. And then we also drew everything out in solar and we would like explain how the whole process worked and like drawing it. And a lot of people, like if you would switch it up in any way, they're gonna realize it right away. Because it's really just a confidence thing, and make sure you say everything with confidence, even if you might not know.
Right. So that's what's more important about that type of face-to-face is having that credibility. Okay, so now that let's transition to that. So credibility, right? How are you guys going to do that as being new agents?
I said confidence, speak, ask a lot of questions, build a relationship. Yeah, and try to just be friendly, be yourself.
Yes.
Always be yourself. I've learned that.
Yeah. Now, what you guys are going to experience in your career is that these type of people are, they're Medicare eligible, so they're older. Okay. There's going to be some things that are going to give some pushback. So let's talk about that. So, and now that you're building credibility, what are some things that what are some objections that you think they're going to give you?
It's not the right amount of coverage that they want.
Okay.
Or the information in itself.
Okay.
Because so bad people do that to me.
Right. So they're going to say to you like, okay, I've already talked to somebody, right? Or I already have everything taken care of.
And I would be like, well, you haven't talked to me.
Right. That's how you do it. Good. Good. No, that's perfect. Yeah.
Or they won't go with you because they're like, oh, but I want to go talk to a few more agents before I decide. Things like that.
Okay. So let me ask you, how do you overcome that objection?
Just pushing value and making it seem.
No. Tell me.
Oh.
Tell me. Don't give suggestions. Tell me. I'm putting you on the spot here. Because that's good. These are the things that we want to know when we start talking to these people for real.
I mean, like how I would overcome that is.
So let's do this. I say to you, I am already talking to other agents. What would you say?
I don't know.
Don't know? Who wants to help her out?
I would probably tell them, well, you haven't talked to me.
Okay, good.
And because you haven't talked to me, it might be some information that I might be able to give you that they won't give you, or that, maybe they haven't given you already.
Okay, good. But what you guys said at the beginning of this conversation, you said it and you said it. What's the most important thing you want to do in these situations? You want to what? Ask questions. There you go.
We're not even taking our own advice.
You're not even taking, exactly. You want to ask questions. That's all I really wanted to get at.
Yeah.
You want to ask some questions. Okay, you've already talked to another agent. Well, what did you guys talk about? You know?
Yeah.
What did you guys discuss? Well, they discussed this, and this. Because if you think about it, any kind of conversation, like think about the conversation we're having right now. You're going to walk out of this room and you're probably going to remember 10% of the conversation that we had. That's just natural. Anytime you have a conversation with somebody, no matter how effective it is for you, you're going to walk away from it, you're going to remember 10% of it. So they're telling you, oh, I'm already talking to another agent about this. Okay, what have you discussed? Have you discussed enrollment? Have you discussed plan details? Have you discussed your drugs? Ask them these questions. Because when you start asking these questions, they're going to say, we haven't discussed that. Because at the end of the day, any type of objection means I don't trust you. That's how I became a successful sales agent here, is that I learned any objection is you don't trust me. Because here's something that you'll really learn. When they finally enroll with you, you can do whatever you want to them. Why? Because they
Trust you.
They trust you.
Oh, I was like,
Yeah, because they trust you.
I was a little lost,
Yeah.
lost with that one.
Yeah, you can do whatever you want,
Yeah.
right? You can do whatever you want. You can say, hey, listen, I'm going to put you in this terrible coverage because I don't like you. Okay, well, whatever you say, I trust you,
Yeah.
Like you're not going to do that, right? But that's the whole point, is that when you get that credibility taken care of, the coverage doesn't matter, the cost doesn't matter. They trust you. You sold yourself, and now you can do what you need to do what's right. And obviously you're going to do what's right, but that's the whole point. So when you get these objections, these clients are going to come in, they're going to bombard you with objections. There's nothing worse than giving a pristine presentation, and at the end, they'll say to you, I got to think about it. You're like, what?
Leasing all the time.
Oh, jeez.
You'd be like,
Yeah.
man.
So ask some questions, like in the middle of the presentation. Are you understanding what I'm saying to you right now? Do you have any questions about what I've talked to you about? There's a lot of times new agents will go through this amazing presentation, present it perfectly, and then they'll say, well, I'll get back to you. You're like, what? I just gave this perfect presentation. Why are we not doing business? Well, we go through coaching, you'll see, oh, I didn't build rapport enough, or I didn't ask questions enough. I didn't get them to understand that, hey, they're participating too.
Yeah, and then I learned you have to learn your clients as well, because I learned that there's some people who love to talk on the phone, and then there's some people that if you talk on the phone with them for more than 20 minutes, they're like, I don't care what you're selling, I don't want to talk anymore, I'm hanging up.
Right.
So try to get all your information out there, without having to drag a conversation out sometimes.
Yes.
I'd say another big thing is keeping them engaged and not just going through the script, like reading everything off, presenting it, but make sure that asking questions is like a big part, but there's other ways to keep a customer engaged with you.
Right. Yeah, that and especially someone who's 65 and older, like they are very, very, some are great, but some of them that you have to build conversational.
Yeah.
You have to be a good chatty Cathy. You have to have something that you want to talk about. And you guys are going to have, a fun time because they're going to hear you. You're going to sound young. And they're going to be like, oh, I'm talking to a young person. I don't trust you at all. You're going to ruin my life. It's like, well, actually, that's not true. I'm an expert, and you'll be taken care of. Yeah, that's what's up. All right, so the last thing, we got one last point, and then we'll wrap it up. So now that we've talked about all of these things, okay, you've talked about asking questions. You've talked about tonality. These are all very, very important. And I'm telling you right now, you're going to forget them because they're going to be saying, are you sure about this? And your tonality, oh yeah, absolutely, this is going to be a great deal for you. As soon as that inflection raises, they're going to be like, no, you're too eager,
Yeah.
So asking questions and tonality, building credibility. The last thing is, and this is something that you always want to remember when you are an agent who is starting, how can you convince them that you are the right agent? After everything that we've done, how can you convince them that you're the one to go with?
put yourself in their shoes.
Absolutely. Which is what? What's that term called?
Reliable. Relatable.
Being relatable
Relatable.
or having empathy.
Empathy.
That's the most important thing. You're going to talk to people that are going to be really mean-spirited. And the first reaction of any agent is going to be that person was a jerk or that person was mean. But why do you think they're mean?
They've been bombarded all
Had bad
day long.
experiences.
Bad experiences.
That's
They could be unhealthy. You guys are going to be great agents if you can develop that empathy factor. That's the most important skill set for an agent is understand where they're coming from. When they start yelling at you about all these calls, say to them,
I'm so sorry.
I
sir.
understand.
Yeah.
I get them too.
well, no, don't. Here's a tip though. Don't apologize.
Don't.
Why do you think apologizing to them, you're correct, but I'm gonna help you out. Why is apologizing to them not a good idea to start out a conversation?
Because then it makes them think that you actually did something wrong.
True. Yeah, that's true. But go back to what you're saying. When someone's like, I've been called so many times, you said the right thing. Agree with them. Why?
Because if you agree with them, like, I forget the term, it makes it seem like you're more like understanding and that you're willing to help more than just kind of put them in like, I guess, like a worse spot
Right.
and not really help with anything at all.
Right. That's the hardest part for people to understand is that when you apologize, you're seen as vulnerable. So they're like, you can't help me. Right?
Yeah.
You have to agree with them. Oh man, that sucks. I know. I work in a world where I have to deal with other agents calling you that have no idea what they're saying. They just want to sell you something. This is not a sales call. I am not a salesman. I am an expert. I am an agent. I am here to help you. And that kind of deflates it. Okay. Another tip, when you're going over presentations, a lot of times they will say, this is very confusing. I'm very confused and overwhelmed. What do you think the response should be to that?
Oh,
I understand
Yeah.
it's a lot to take in and then try to simplify it even more and break it down for them and make sure that they are completely understanding what
Yeah.
You want to
they signed up
identify
for.
what part of this whole
so it's
script or whatever
yeah.
that you're talking about is confusing for them. It
Right.
could be something real simple, and we're going to think it's the whole process. It might be just something.
just
where
something small.
Yeah.
My drug coverage is going to, my medication is going to be covered by the right drug coverage.
Yeah.
So identify whatever his concern is or
Yeah.
confusement is.
Yeah.
And try to answer it.
And that's what's important too. Don't ever apologize like, oh, I know, I'm so sorry. It is very confusing. Because if you think about the psychology behind that, if you're telling somebody, oh, I know it is so confusing, do you think they're going to want to buy from you?
No.
No. They're like, this person doesn't even know what they're doing. But if you say just like that, like, oh, I completely understand, you should be like, what did I miss? What is something that I explained to you that you didn't understand? That's the confidence. That's the tonality. So in the end, when you are building that credibility, you want to pay attention to your tonality. You want to pay attention to your empathy. You want to instill this in the recipient of the call because the confidence is going to get them to trust you. Okay?
Gotcha.
All right. That's a good way to end. So my final thoughts on this. Any thoughts on what we talked about today?
No. But
What is something that you were going to take with you when you get on the phones this afternoon?
The 3 concerns
Okay.
and how to overcome them.
Okay. And what's the most important one out of all of them?
Credibility.
Credibility. No, not coverage. Credibility. Because if they trust you, the other ones don't matter.
Yeah.
Yeah. You want to identify them. You want to say to them, look, okay, I understand cost is a concern, but think about it. Like, what was the last thing that you bought that was really expensive?
My dog.
Okay. When you went to go get your dog, did you pay attention to the person that was talking to you about your dog? Very important, right?
Right.
Like they gave you information about the dog, the history. I don't know if it was a puppy or a rescue.
Yeah, I went to a breeder.
Okay, so you probably bought a puppy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you probably like listened very intently and you're like, okay, the reason that I'm buying a dog from this particular breeder is because I trust this breeder, right? That's what is important, is that you want to build that credibility. Cool. All right. Anything else that we talked about? Okay. So that's my advice to you this afternoon. You will have lunch, but what's going to be great is when you guys go through the script training and start understanding the script, keep in the back of your mind, none of the script matters. None of it matters unless they what?
They trust you.
They trust you. They trust you. You're going to talk about costs with them. You're talking about coverage with them. Everything's important, but does not matter if they don't trust you. So building that rapport, having conversations with them, asking questions, keeping that tonality regulated, you're going to do great. All right. With that being said, that's it for me. Thank you guys. Thank you for watching, and we will see you tomorrow. Grip is out.
Awesome.